I had to go get myself some coffee, and I discovered a couple of things when I was playing this with someone. First of all, we have this thing right here in the networking. When the player disconnects, right? We need to make sure that we're not drawing the shadows for that player, and all we have to do for that is just to disable the disable the flashlight for that player object. So when we disconnect right here, all we have to do is let's see, so we find the Y of the player, Diaz grid get, get the player data structure. The X would be, let's see, player object ID, so that would be 4. And find Y. Okay, so var player obj equals to this guy, and what we'll take here is we'll say flashlight enable equals false. I also want to reset these values that we've had created here. Remote ADW and F, as well as the backspace. Because I want to make sure that if the player pressed the forward button while disconnecting, the player object does not continuously fly around. Right? Okay, so that's that. Another thing, another problem. Another problem was that another problem was that the shadows were not being created correctly. Or not that they weren't being created correctly. It's just that when we had two light sources, then the shadow, the whatchamacallit, the shadow is being displayed in a wrong place, where it's being overlapping. It's overlapping with other objects. So the shadows from this object would overlap with this object. And that sucks. And in order to circumvent that, we have to basically mask out all of these objects, all of this stuff. Let's see. So the only way to do that is to draw the shadows. Ah, man. See, the problem with that is the best thing to do is to draw the shadows below, and the sad thing is that doing that is honestly just easier. Just easier on a separate object. Eh? That's just all it is. It's easier on a different object. Object master. Highest. How's it going? Oh man. Okay, so here's the dealio. You can spend months on making the perfect lighting engine, a lighting solution. The problem is that that lighting system is not gonna, it's not playable content, it's just visual effects. So it's clearly gonna take a lot more to get the lighting engine to look good. So the best thing that I can do is take it from the lighting, the object lighting, and simply put it back into the object shadow. There's going to be one thing that's different though. There's going to be one different thing about it, and it's the fact that we're actually going to go ahead and probably, let's see, shadows. We don't even have a draw event in the shadow, so we're going to actually create a new object, obj surface shadows. We're going to go into the draw event. We're going to put in our shadows here, and it's also going to be a surface. And we just have to go into the lighting and make sure that we take the creation event for the surface and put it into the creation event of this object. And add colored lights. Yeah, that would actually be a good idea, just to differentiate between where your player is in the level. So, object shadows. I still had this object in here. So we're gonna delete this. We're gonna move the shadows back below the tile. What tile is this? That's the, okay, so this is that tile. This is this tile, so it has to be above the fog. Okay. And we're gonna go ahead and move the surface shadow object in here. You can have like red lights for checkpoints or reflectors in industrial areas. Yep. All good suggestions. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do this, and not set before reading, view width, view heights. That's right, I'm using these variables that use this guy over here. So we'll need to go ahead and put them in here. So that should effectively draw the shadows below. Now once again, we're going to face the problem that the shadows are appearing. Start server. What else? What is this? Surface create global shadow surface. Oh, I guess we also need these variables here. Will this game be multiplayer? That's what I'm kind of shooting for. It's like multiplayer co-op. Okay, so here we have shadows. The only thing is that the lighting now needs to be displayed on top. So all we have to do here is this. Let's see, where's the lighting? Here's the lighting, and I need to, in the lighting object, I need to go back and disable the draw of this guy. Terrain objects, draw sprite extended. Well, I don't need this, and I don't need to draw the surface. What is all this? Terrain master object. What? Add shadows. Why am I adding shadows? Why am I adding shadows here? I feel like I copied the wrong thing. Let's see, draw event. I did copy the wrong thing. That's why it's not working. Right, okay. Let's move the correct stuff this time. So this has to be down here. this has to be in the surface shadow. Okay, here we go. There's the shadows. Okay. And another thing that I need to do is I need to... See, not all the shadows are here. The only other thing that I need to do is to whatchamacallit. Having to keep this all in your head. See, these artifacts. Terrible, man. Terrible. Anyways, I can get rid of those artifacts by not drawing in the object lighting, not drawing this thing here, the surface. This one, the shadow surface. And we'll go ahead and just comment both of these guys out. So, how's everybody doing? Here we go. And our shadows are gone. Why are our shadows gone? Oh yeah, it could be because the shadow surface. Oh, yeah, it's because we're not actually drawing our shadow surface. Which, by the way, okay, we go down here. View X, view Y. There's the shadow. Okay, but it's being drawn in black and white, and that's not what we need. We need to see black. And then we need to draw this. What is with Discord turning off randomly? That's strange. Okay, there's our shadows. If I go down here, then no artifacts. We don't have that sweet blended shadows, and as you can see, the shadows over here are also looking pretty good, and they're not overlapping the plants. So generally speaking, this works, right? And as you can see, that works pretty well too. The only problem with this is that when we draw our shadows, let's say 0.5, and we'll go to the lighting, we'll set the lighting to 0.5 as well, the shadows will be still visible. Which I think, yeah, see? There you go. Still visible. So I think this is actually right here, the point where in the shadows where I can use that whole blending shabacle in order to draw only the shadows. So what I will do is we're gonna borrow some code from object shadows, the regular one. Right, so we're gonna borrow this. Let's actually create a new workspace so we can copy this stuff. Draw event, draw event. Okay, so object shadows. We're gonna borrow this. And you see, I think we're gonna be able to do this only once as well. So put in our code that disables blend modes. Then we're gonna go through this, Control-Shift-K, and here we go. So in between this and that, we will have to draw our, let's see, yes. So before we call this, we'll have to draw our Control-Shift-K, we'll have to draw our Shift-Tab, our player masks, which are the player flashlight beams. There we go. F-light, X, F-light. Do I really need these things? I feel like we've already calculated them, which we have. Unless we didn't. No, we didn't. Unless we have. F-light distance, F-light direction. Where is this coming from? F-light distance, F-light direction. Oh, because it's with object player, that's why. We're grabbing those internal variables. Okay, so what's happening next is we toggle that, and then we draw our polygons, and we close up with this thing right here. So that should effectively only reveal the flashlights, or only reveal the shadows within the flashlights. There we go. Good golly. Okay, that's it. That's all that we needed. That is all that we needed. Okay. So this I can post. And what I want to do actually is in the object lighting, I'm going to say global dot ambient equals 0.8. And let's go ahead and replace all of the surface stuff, or well, not surface stuff, but all of this stuff. Let's go ahead and replace it with these things. So we'll go object lighting in the draw event. This is the ambient lighting right here. Here we go. Okay, so technically, although that could also be working because of this thing in the object shadow. So let's see. If I said draw surface to 0, I think it will still, it's still going to draw the shadows, because once again we're dealing with the aspect of the sprite. Oh no, this is working. Okay, so never mind what I was gonna say. Because remember how in the previous one we had to adjust the sprite that is used as a mask, so the flashlight sprite was being adjusted. Okay, and another thing that I need to do is, of course, come on, let's close this up. And GameMaker decided to crash, so that's fantastic. Okay, where were we? Right. Objects, lighting, object lighting. Create 0.8. All right. So technically speaking, cool. Okay, and one more thing that I have is, I'm pretty sure I can actually do it from here. So we have our, see, this is not really level assets, and it's not in level assets. We need our lighting. So we'll create a group, lighting, and create SPR fade light. Technically this is SPR point light. So what I want to do is resize all frames. We'll make it 256 by 256. I think that should be good. And we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna make a circle. It will be a white circle. Like that. We'll go to Effect, Blur. Okay. We'll apply and we'll do the blur give another pass. Maybe even 3 passes. Like that. Okay. Hopefully there are no cutoff pixels, because that would not be nice. Close this tab, put a center point, and now I actually feel like that's going to be too strong, but we'll figure this out in a moment. We go to Object Lighting, Draw. So first of all, with every player object, if the flashlight is enabled, which we're still debating on, but what we'll do is we will draw SPR fade light. We will draw just the first frame, XY minus VUX minus VY. Scale, well, will be 1 to 1 for the time being. Image angle doesn't matter, it's a circle sprite. See white and full transparency. The transparency actually should be substituted as well, because if the flashlight's flickering, this thing needs to flicker as well. Make sense? Hopefully. Hopefully it makes sense. Man, I want to write music to this. Why does game dev take so long? Okay, so here's our little thing. Our little orientation piece. But to be honest, it looks terrible. Let's go ahead and create a proper gradient. I am pretty sure that we don't have gradients in GameMaker Studio as of yet. Oh, we do have gradients. Let's see. No, that's replace color. That's just replace color. We don't have gradients yet. Okay, fine. Fine. Whatever. We'll go ahead and use our favorite tool, my favorite tool, Krita, to create our gradients. New file, 256 by 256, create. Okay, we'll go ahead and save this, assets, lighting. I might as well just save it here. Lighting sprites. Beautiful. Disable this, new layer, and as a matter of fact, I'll create a fill layer. Sure, let's make it black. And I'll take this, and we can now do some stuff. So that in the opposite direction, okay, and linear radial, just like that. Okay, so you see that should give us a pretty soft soft light. We'll turn off the blackness. Okay, I really need to define a center point though, because that is important. So we'll do brush, go here, yes, no, I said brush. Okay, we'll go ahead and mark our center point like this. And now we can go ahead and take the gradient tool, do like that. Okay, I just needed to make sure that we're starting from the center, because if I started a little bit off, or a little bit off here, and I reached the edge, then they would have been cropped up in there. So I had to make sure that I got everything right. Okay, beautiful. Sounds a little excited outside, but let's put on some music. Okay, that's our light sprite. Save, export, PNG. Lighting. Okay, that might look better. I'm also probably gonna increase the size while decreasing the alpha of it, so we can see the ship, but it doesn't illuminate as much of the surrounding environment. See, just like that. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so I believe the lighting should be fixed by now. Although, I'm thinking, I think if I will add, I think if I'll add a flashlight. Yeah. See, the problem is that since we're using surfaces now, since we are using, excuse me, need to move this thing. Since we're using surfaces now, the entire surface is actually going to get revealed with a flashlight. Now what that means is that there could be a very long shadow being cast by the player over here. See this shadow right here. And there could be another player all the way over there. And this shadow would show up for that player, which is not good. So I think what we have to do, and I don't know if this will work, and that's a pretty big problem area to be ignored, because it effectively kind of bricks the entire system. So what we need to do is, instead of revealing the entire flashlight. Instead of revealing the entire surface, we should only reveal the individual shadows inside. I think that's what it should be. So here we are in the draw event of the surface shadow, and we set surface target and then reset surface target. So all of this blending stuff we need to do inside of here. Okay, so what is this? This is the masking stuff that we do. Draw polygon. Yeah, here we go. So this draw polygon would have to be drawn There we go. So this draw polygon would have to be drawn within this masking procedure. Like that. And we'll need our surface reset. Whoops. Just want to offset everything just so I can see it. We'll sort the stuff out later on. Right. Also, I don't need to do this anymore, as far as I know. So we can get rid of this. We don't need to do this. The draw self. Okay. Let's take a look at this. I don't know if the blending will actually work. Okay. But this could always be the problem here, though. So, you know, I gotta be vigilant. I don't think we're supposed to be subtracting stuff here. Maybe. Yeah, okay. We've we've lost it. We've lost the position of the shadows. Although we could have also lost this because we're not drawing this in the proper place. Vx minus Vy. And as far as I know, those are the only two things. Oh, okay, we have a shadow over there. We don't have this shadow, though. We have something over there. So I think we're kind of getting close. So what if we don't subtract view width and view height from that guy? No. Okay. So that's all gone. So we do have to subtract it. View x view y. Let's increase this value up to 100. Okay. So the only key things oh, it's right here. No, that's supposed to be there. Yeah, we're drawing the surface there. Oh man. Okay. Vx, Vy. Two. There's the angle difference. That's the physical angle. Temp by flashlight angle. Shadow surface. You know what, let me just quickly do something. Sign up. Chat. Just disable that for a moment. Give me a second. Class message item. Okay. Okay, never mind. Thought I could fix something, but okay. Start service, what am I checking? I need the shadow to show up again. So there's a shadow right there. But that's not... Although... Why is this shadow here? Why does this shadow show up? But none of the other ones do. I'm thinking that it's because there's incorrect offset. That's the only thing that I can think of. It's exist object player. Surface set target, and then we check the view position. But that checks just the physical coordinates. We're not actually drawing anything here. Here's us drawing the polygon. Minus view width, minus view height. So, whoops, minus view x, minus view y. That's what I have to do. Okay. And it's gone again. Okay, so what was I drawing in here? This is me drawing the flashlight. Although, no, this calculates the angle of the shadow. Okay, how about this? We'll first of all let's do C red for the time being, so we can check the stuff. Here we go. So what does this draw? Wait a minute. It's right there. All the shadows are here. But all the shadows are being drawn as something else. What? That's not how it's supposed to work. So all the shadows are in the correct place. They're just not being drawn properly. Is what the problem is. They're being drawn as transparent, which tells me that somewhere in here there's a blend mode that isn't supposed to be here. GPU said blend mode. Most peculiar. What if we set this thing to be 100%? This actually kind of makes sense. It's only revealed. This means that the blending mode system that I'm using is affecting the way the thing is working. I mean, this is kind of interesting, but it's not what I need. It's doing the opposite. Do I do reset target? Yeah, right here. Target reset. And then we draw the surface. Okay. So what does say C? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which color you do this in. The point is that the flashlight is supposed to only reveal the shadows, not the entire surface. That's the problem. But right now, you see the flashlight is revealing the entire surface. That's why it's not working. Everything is in the proper positions. It's revealing the surface without the shadows. Yes, I think. Yeah, you can still see the background. That's not the way it's supposed to be done. Oh, man. Unless I can just... Let's goof this up. Let's replace them. Switch places. Okay. That is hilariously wrong. Okay. Yeah. So weird. But I guess that's what I should expect for using the surface. So how about we'll disable the surface targets. Okay, so now it's just not doing anything. Oh yeah, well it's... Man, it's not doing anything because we subtract the view width and height from it. Man, why can't you just do things the way I want you to do things? That's not how things work. Wait a minute. Oh, there's the repeat. No, it's right here. And there's the end of the repeat. Here's the check. The thing is within the view. As a matter of fact, I think this has to be inside of here. And this has to be checked against the players. Actually, no, this is global. It's global and it's taking place in the terrain object. Oh, what if I just go back to the level? So take that object surface shadows and I'll just put in my old shadows. Let's see. Let me remind myself what it was that that told me why I didn't like this option. Remind myself why I didn't want to go with this one. I think it was something about the overlapping shadows. Yeah. It's the multiple objects overlapping their shadows together. Yeah, see, just like that. No artifacts, though. At least that's good. So, I do have a backup system that does work. So, if anything, I could just use this. Okay. Surface shadow. Let's go back to this then. So why can't I use this? we draw the polygon. I mean, if we get rid of these two, that just shows the, yeah, that just shows the shadows in places it shouldn't. Is it? Is that the problem? Yeah. Oh man. Wait a minute. If, hold on a second. So if we do C black. Oh yeah, no. It's supposed to be transparent. We're not supposed to be using any sort of subtraction here. As a matter of fact, we're not even supposed to draw this stuff if it's just a regular shadow. Like that, right? But it's still drawing, yeah, see, it still draws the shadow. That's why I wanted to only draw the shadow if it's being shined on. But that apparently is too much to ask. Because see, it's doing the opposite in here. So weird, man. So weird. It's in the right place. It's just that masking can't seem to be run inside of a surface. We need a much deeper understanding of how surfaces work to make out sort of a blending combination you have to use. But we'll use this. See, it says alpha, invert alpha. What if we switch those places? Yeah. I mean, that was a shot in the dark anyways. Yeah, C black 0. We'll set this to 1. Well, as cool as this feature is, it seems like it has limitations. surface create. Man, okay, I gotta move on. I'm getting too hung up in this. I'm getting way too hung up on this. The only solution that I have left is to use a separate object. So the main problem, the main problem with the first system, not the surface-based system, is that all the shadows are being drawn over one another, which is technically the effect I'm desiring, but when multiple objects are casting shadows, it looks terrible. It needs to look like one big body. One whole shadow body. And the only way to do that is to put it onto a surface. Okay, so right. So here's what I'll do. Let's just drop this guy here. For the time being, let it just be there. Come to think of it, the only other way I can do this is if I define the shadow body as a one big piece. So all the extruded shapes would be defined as a one big body. And I think that is the only way I can get around it. I think that is indeed the only way I can get around it. But in that sense, I'm defining the shadows manually. Every extrusion will have a defined shadow shape. And I'd have to go through the entire level and check all the extrusions, like this would be an extrusion. Alright, this would be an extrusion, this tiny little one. And I'd have to define it as a one big shape. Like this crevice inside wouldn't be, but this one, this little piece, would. And that would be a shadow. What's wrong? Well, it's, for the most part, everything works, but to be honest, it's just... Ah, man. I'm getting too hung up with the shadows, man. The project is at a standstill while I'm trying to figure out, yo, man, how am I gonna get this right? Here's the thing. So, here we have a great example of this system working, right? So I'm using the masks, the masking method. And I'm basically saying only draw the shadows within the masks. The problem is each one of these objects is casting its own shadow, and they end up overlapping, and they end up... They're supposed to be as a one single body shape, which means that I have to put them on the surface, and I have to draw the entire surface together, which works, however, without masking. If I use masking, it breaks the entire thing. I can't seem to use masking inside of surfaces. And the reason I have a surface for the shadows is because if I put it in the same surface as the lighting surface, then I end up having shadows on top of all the objects. And then I have to mask out or subtract the shapes of the objects from the shadows, and it's just it turns into a mess. N41, thanks for the comment. But man, this is sometimes I wonder if it's just not worth it. The effect is just not worth it. Right? So that's kind of my general problem here. Now, this was the what was the problem with the other solution? When every object was casting its own shadows, only showing up in the player. Oh, well, yeah, the problem was that the shadows were overlapping. That's what the problem was. Unless I can... Nah. This is taking too much. Too much, man. Absolutely too much of my time. Right, you see there's a whole bunch of objects drawing the shadow there. What do I mean by masking? Like, that's exactly what I mean. GameMaker Studio gives you the option to use masking. So, here's the thing. If I have two surfaces right now, don't ask, just listen. Two surfaces. One surface is for the general darkness. This is the one that the flashlight is revealing. That's the standard way of doing it, right? And then I have a second surface that contains all the shadows. For now, if I draw the surface below the surface with the shadows and then the surface with the lighting, then you will actually see, you can move away the flashlight and the shadow will still be here. The shadow is still here, right? Right now, what I'm using is masking, which is, you know, the GameMaker Studio. Let's see, where is it? GameMaker Studio masking. It's dynamic render masking. It's this thing, right? This effect. So basically I'm saying that this mask is the flashlight and these white stripes are the shadows. So only show the shadows within the flashlight beam. And that's how I'm getting the flashlight. That's how I'm getting the shadows, even though they're on a separate masking, they're on a separate surface, to only show up when the flashlight is shining on them, right? The problem is that it's... like, let's see. I can probably go into the surface shadow, and I can probably just say... Let's see, where was this thing? What was the general... F? What? No, not line and number. It's this thing. Yeah, I'm not even... Here we go. So this is the brightness for the entire surface. Alright, so as you can see, the shadows are only being revealed inside of the flashlight. Now, let's see. We have our draw polygon. That draws it at full brightness. Oh yeah, this is not the right thing that I'm editing. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Okay, so no shadows are being shown because the masking is not working. So if I go to the surface shadows, disable all the masking processes, like that, and just draw the shadows. Okay, it's not set up correctly. Black 1. Oh yeah, and I'm not supposed to be drawing the flash beam if I'm doing this. Okay, there's the shadow. You see the shadow is still being drawn, right? And you can see that it's toggling, like it's very visible, and it's toggling because I told it not to render if the flashlight's not facing it, right? But you can see that the shadow is being drawn on the separate layer, on the below the surface, and that's not good. There's other problems when the surface is being drawn. Let's see. When the surface is being drawn on the lighting surface, it's, well, yeah, let's see. I'll take the surface. There was a error or a problem that I remember that it had, but I need to quickly remind myself what it was. Here we go. Draw surface, shadow. Oh yeah, and I need to make sure that I don't draw this surface right now. I think it was, yeah, okay. What are we doing here? Oh yeah, BM normal. Need to make sure that this is normal. Yeah, there you go. The shadow shapes are on top of the objects. That was the reason why I can't use a single surface for the shadows. I have to draw the shadows on a different plane. That's what I've been battling. That's why... man. This system. This freaking system. When you get into layering stuff above and below, it just gets tedious. I mean, I could probably do something like, although this would not work because multiple players. If it was a single player, surprisingly enough, we have no issues. We can work with this. Once we get into multiple players, then suddenly it gets a little bit more difficult. Shadows being drawn on top of other players, shadows reaching the extents of places where they're not supposed to be. This is frankly why I wanted to try to do this. Let's see, object shadows. The regular one. So with that being said, I think I can use this. I can use this, but I have to define major shapes myself. So instead of surface shadow, I can use just regular shadows, but I will have to do something like this. Let's see. I'll create a new object. Object trigger, object level assets. Or no, lighting. So this is obj shadow body. And that wouldn't be using any surfaces. So shadow body, the parent of shadow body will be the terrain master because it has the code for it. Parent. And what I'm gonna have to do now is I'm gonna have to place object terrain. Let's see, the shadow body. Let me go into the draw event. Draw, or actually draw GUI or draw and event. Can delete this one. Draw and. We'll draw a circle, x, y, radius of 100, or let's do radius of 300, and true for the outline. And then we'll draw a second circle, radius of 30. So we'll do just a nice pointer, basically. And that will tell me where the object is located. Now, I will go into, I'll drop the shadow body in here onto the shadows. Right. Can't see it now, but it would be great if we could. Right. Actually, we can. We can just drop it at the lighting layer so we can actually see it. And we're gonna have to also drop the shadow definer in here. Whoops. Sorry, the shadow define object. In this object, we'll have to say this is the target equals, and this is the instance that we're targeting. Okay. Start server. Cannot set physics property of object shadow body. Not a physics object. That's right, because it is a parent of the terrain object. Let's not start it awake. Object shadow cannot set object shadow body as a fix has not been enabled on this. What do you mean not been enabled? Object shadow body. Oh yeah. I set up the wrong one. Physics, start awake. Set it all to 0. Start server. I swear to freaking God. Phi_active equals true. Cannot set physics property of object obj shadow body. OBJ shadow body. Use physics. I guess it's because it's not starting awake, is it? Oh, man. Maybe there's a piece of code somewhere that's... yeah. Okay. Terrain main master phi_active equals true. OBJ shadow body. Okay, I'm gonna clean up. OBJ shadow body. Use physics. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to do this. step event. So we'll say if PL does not equal to obj shadow body, then we'll do these whole shenanigans. Man, amount of work. I'll have to comment out the phi target in every single terrain object as well. Okay. Start server. Cannot set physics property of object obj shadow body, as physics have not been enabled for this object. I disabled it specifically right here. Okay, instance get object get name. What does this do? Returns the name of the specified object as defined in the resource tree. Index of the object to check. Function will return the name as a string of the specified object. This name is one that has been specified in the object. Okay, as I get index. Ah, man. Okay, is it or is it not just easier to go to shadow body and just it starts awake, it uses physics, I don't know, man. So much work just to get this one feature done. Object terrain master. GML object terrain master step event line 14. This is actually weird. Maybe it's because my density is 0.1. Nope. As physics have not been enabled on this object. Use physics right there. You program. Although it could be doing that because a sprite has not been set on the object. Because it uses a sprite. Wow. Wow, you stupid program. Wow, holy cow. Although it makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. Or does it? In physics you can define, I think that's only a collision shape, so it still uses the sprite itself to calculate, using the size of the sprite to calculate the mass and the shape of the movement. Even though the collision shape is defined elsewhere. Okay. So I'll use L. Okay. And, alright, so before I get to that, let's go ahead and open up every single one of these. Edit all. That's gonna be, here we go. Create event. Don't do that. 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 We'll do that. So we're not throwing away the entire system, it's just we're going to be very selective as to where the shadows are actually going to be generated. So instead of having every single object generate shadows, we're going to have a single object that will define a shadow in specific places. Okay, that's good. And now I will go to object lighting, and we'll go ahead and say that the ambience should be 0.5. Draw event, ambient 0.5. There we go. Okay. So we see the target. We'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's no way to cast the shadow. Well, okay, there might be a way from this point. And then we go here, and we go here, and that is it. So now I will take, let's see, where's the other one? This is the shadow define. This is the shadow body. Create event, and then sh_def equals this atrocity. Okay. Okay, here we go. That is a one single body, except there seems to be still something in here that's casting its own shadow. What have I missed? Something in here is still casting a shadow. And it shouldn't be. Unless I'm just being paranoid, and that wasn't a shadow. Right, in which case, what am I doing? Okay, I will also have to go to the shadow, regular shadows, and I'll have to make an exception for this thing. So no longer only cast shadows when the player is facing the shadow, because sometimes the shadows are going to be so big it won't actually matter. Like this. But we are getting an inkling of something working, I think. It's not completely working. And I think the shadow here is actually generated from one of the objects. This object. No, it's not doing anything. So what the hell? Let's see. Take this, move it up here. We'll see if it casts the shadow, because that's the defined point. Shadow define object that should be casting a shadow. Right, so I'll go over here. There's our points. But you see they're overlapping. They're overlapping, they shouldn't be overlapping. So does that mean I have to use this guy? The surface shadows? Whoops, okay, one sec. Let me move this guy back in there. OBJ shadows. We'll put in the surface shadows. Come on. Not an inch has this project moved in its path of completion since I've been tackling this issue. Okay, here we go. So the shadows are being displayed and all being displayed correctly. All I need to do is, once again, in the surface shadow, is disable this thing. This, the angle, oh man, but I'm back to square one because if I'm using a surface, then I can't use the blending for it. You know what? What did I just do? Flashlight. Should I just say screw it and call it a feature? it's your visible area. I could pass it off as a feature. Oh my goodness. And if I could pass it off as a feature, oh man, the problem. So the problem that takes place then is mainly the fact that I will have to only show these shadows for the first player. For you the player, and no other. Well, and that becomes a totally different feature. That becomes the visibility feature, so to speak. So you can't visibly see what's behind certain 3D, certain objects, because you're physically in that virtual space as a 2D object. You can't see past that terrain piece. But that changes the type of game that this is. It's, well, it gets more survival-ish. So like survival horror. So once again, I could pass it off as a feature. Funny thing is, this is actually where 3D engines kind of take over. You could take a 3D engine and use its lighting mechanics, and you don't have to bother with this. What am I missing? Why do I still have surface shadows? What is this? This is surface shadows. So, oh yeah, that's right. We're still checking whether or not the flashlight is being turned on, I think. Let's see, flashlight enable. No, we're not. Oh yeah, no, here we go. Flashlight enable, draw polygons. So if we do this, then we start off like that. Everything is already obscured. Right? And you can fly around like this. But here's an interesting part. Here's an interesting part. And this is going to be painful to do. But if I enable... Let's see, edit all. If I enable all of the lighting, light definition here, then that actually works to my advantage, doesn't it? Here we go. Let's see, sh defined. The only difference is that I'm basically changing what it is. I'm not calling it a lighting system, I'm calling it a visibility system. And just by doing that, I'm solving this entire problem. Oh man. So, let's see. So here we have every object is casting its own thing. Right, it's in the darkness. It's always in the darkness. It's not overlapping with anything. And here we have this. Yes, you see that artifact over there? That's because I'm scaling stuff and I shouldn't be scaling. Although, I'm... Once... No, I can't. Or can I? 1 second. Terrain object master. So, wouldn't scaling simply affect where the points are being set up with this? The length, direction, distance. Right? XY. So, multiply... Oh, but you see, no, in that case it has to be scaled. It has to be scaled equally. And if they, yeah, okay, yeah, that's not gonna work. Okay. Anywho. Yeah. So, yeah, so you see that black piece, it's there because that object over there is resized. Because it doesn't account for resizing. I could call this a feature, to be honest. It's not quite what I wanted. But at this point, it's just taking too much of my time. Right? Let's see. You see the points are defined a little off here. I gotta say, it's not looking terrible. It's not a lighting system. But it is dynamic, so at least that's good. Okay, there we go. So far, so good. So far, so good. And the best thing is that I can do this only for... Oh, see? Another resized object right there. So I'm gonna have to fix those up. But other than that, all I have to do is make sure that the point of origin is the player of the client, not all players. So then we will have this whole issue pretty solved. Oh, there's another resized object. There's a lot of them in here. Okay. Huh. What do you say? Is this good? I think this is suitable enough. If we're gonna plummet the player into darkness, I think this would actually fit the whole horror aesthetic that this is going for. You know, not being able to see beyond corners. The advantage that 2D games give you is the fact that you can see beyond corners. Object terrain master. So all I have to do is calculate it only for the client player. Man, it would be great. If this worked as a shadow. I'm pretty sure the only thing I have to do to make it work as a shadow is to draw, let's see, what is this? This is surface shadow. Is to just draw this at global.ambient. It would still show up. But you can kind of see past it. Right? You see it's still showing up there. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. Literally the only problem is making this only show up where the flashlight is. And you know, technically this could also be solved if I only do lighting for the player, for this player. If I only do the lighting for this player. Because the only reason I can't do it, the only reason it's kind of broken right now is if there's a player right here and the game is calculating these shadows for this, there could also be, I mean here, I can actually demonstrate this. So built that watch. I try to demonstrate it, and it actually works. That would be like a Christmas present. Okay, come on. I really wanted to have other players' flashlights to also show up here. And it would make sense that they would. If it's like a co-op survival horror, then why wouldn't your friends' flashlights show up? Okay, come on. Just there we go. Flight. Replace. Righto. Okay. We are already in the 5 megabytes of this game size. Okay, so here we are. Start server, ready. And 192, 168, 0 point, what was it? Oh man. Uh, 82. Really? Oh no, it's 243. 243. Connect. Ready. Okay. So here's the dealio. Right? Already we can see the shadows are kind of broken. But anyways. So here we are here. I'll set graph to 0. I'll enable the flashlight. Here we are. As a matter of fact, casting a shadow of that player, because that's getting calculated. Graph equals 0. Come on. Here we go. Okay. So yeah, this actually already demonstrates it. So I'll leave this guy here. I'll take this. I'll move up. There's our one player. Not shining the flashlight in the right direction. God damn it, I thought I fixed it. Okay. You can already see where the problems are. Right? Like, what is that shadow doing being rendered over there? It should only show up where the player flashlight is shining. But you see, technically, that gets achieved by the regular shadow system. So if I go shadows, this is getting achieved over here, and with masking. So I'll stop this, close this. Start server. Okay, there's the shadows only showing up where the player is. But you see that? You see that banding? You see that all? It's because every single object is creating its own shadow. That's another reason why we can't use this. If this was a single object, which is what I'm testing with this guy, then this could work. Okay, but in order to test it with that guy, I once again need to go over here. I need to comment out all of these things. Actually, shit, what am I doing, man? For crying out loud. Why don't I just do this? Search and replace all of these. For lot, but that's going to... See if I find them all. Here are all the create events. But there's also a bunch of other scripts that use this variable. So if I comment it out this way, then that's going to be disastrous. There's, however, a way to do it. Okay. Yeah, the only way to do it is if I involve another variable in this. Go. We've got... Oh, hey. This is not right. This should be shadow depth. How did I miss that? Although of no consequence. Okay. And then I have this thing right here, creating this shadow. So let's take a look. Who knows? Maybe that'll work. What was the problem with this? Man, I gotta start writing this stuff down. F for flashlight. Here we are. Casting the shadow, and that's right. I could use it because shadow's overlapping and causing errors. Only, I think, if I draw the shadow at full transparency, I think will it work. There's no alpha here. No alpha setting here to set the transparency of this. It's just this guy. That one. Like that. So that is drawing the shadow. Nope. It's still overlapping, but it's overlapping by the end of the flashlight sprite. You see, in the body of the sprite, it works fine. As soon as we start going to the edge of the sprite, you see there's like transparency issues, and the two blacks are overlapping, making a darker black, so... What if I do C black for the flashlight instead of C white? Will it change anything? Nope. Still overlaps. Yeah, so as you can see, there's just problems everywhere. And this is a single body. Yeah, so by the looks of it, this is all that we can do. Okay. So now we gotta comment this all out. Such a pain in my rear. Yeah, so we're just gonna have to go with visibility instead of lighting, even though lighting would look nicer. We're gonna settle on this. We're gonna call it a feature. And that will be that. Although, to be honest, I don't know how you're supposed to solve this. I'm pretty sure the only other way to solve it is if I use black and white and a very specific type of blending instead of blackness and alpha. Right. So let's switch our object shadow body, shadow define. That's not what I need. I need the shadows. This would be shadows surface. Although no, don't have to be shadow surface. This can be just a regular one. Yeah, that's another thing. We don't have to use a surface if we're just using this. Okay, so don't need this guy. And in the shadows surface, the surface shadows, I'll need to make sure that I draw this in full opacity. Do I have any more coffee? Nope. I need more coffee. And there you go. And I can probably go to our lighting, and if we say that this is 0.9 as in almost fully black, this would make for some grooty experiences. Nice. Yeah, screw it. We'll call this your visibility line. Now, in the lighting, where we are drawing this thing, let's double the size of the surrounding light sphere that the player finds himself in. Like this. Okay. Right, so this will provide just a little bit more surrounding light. There we go. Oof. Go off exploring. Oops. To be honest, putting the player in such darkness is such a cliche. It's not good. Should be able to tell that it's dark without submerging them in complete blackness. Maybe it's just the fact that the flashlight is very narrow. Maybe. So how about we'll say the Y width of the flashlight. Draw sprite, flashlight. So let's increase the Y width. Let's increase the flashlight size altogether. So we'll do this here, 3, 3. And I gotta do this here as well, 3, 3. So the flashlight will be able to reach further. It's not like you'll be able to see around the corners. Just like that. Well, I think this helps. It's not quite as limiting. You can still see quite a bit. Come on, get out of here. Also, this flashlight flicker. It's actually, it's terrible. Okay, so let me do this because this has been getting on my nerves. Let me get the velocity of the player when the collision happens. So when we collide with the terrain, let's see, do we have a variable for it? We have the... Okay, old. Anything with old? No? Okay. We should definitely have old somewhere. No, not really. Old? Wow, okay. So I guess there isn't any old stuff, so let's do old pose X, old pose Y equals Y equals X. At least when we start. So here's what we'll have to do with this. In the step event, we'll say, oh yeah, and the last thing is, so calculated velocity will be equals to 0. So here we'll have point distance between phi position X, phi position Y, and we'll say old X, old Y. and that will be calculated velocity. After we get that calculation, hold position X, hold position Y, both become current positions. So now, if I do a draw and event, we'll draw text XY velocity plus string calculated velocity. So this should tell me what the calculated velocity is as we move around. So as you can see, velocity of 7. So how about this? When we have a collision, we'll say if velocity is above 7, then we'll go ahead and we'll do this. We'll set our flicker so that the flicker doesn't happen whenever you're like even lightly touching the terrain, right? So it's only when you hit the terrain with some velocity is when you end up getting the flicker like this. Okay. And if we stop, our velocity will be 0. Beautiful. Okay, maybe we'll increase it just a bit. Maybe we'll say 8. Okay, here we go. There we go. Ooh. Alright, so the most important thing, that's the last thing that we need to do with this object shadow definer. Sorry, object regular shadows, I think. Is that the one we're using? No, shadow surface. Is that we only have to calculate this for global.home player instead of instance find. As a matter of fact, we don't need to do this loop, but let me actually duplicate this. So we'll do surface, we'll duplicate this. So we're not going to be using a surface here because we're drawing everything in black. We'll do visibility. So shadows, visibility. Okay, first of all, don't need to do this on a repeat. Don't need to know how many objects there are. Okay, do we have... How do we not have a jump to... Okay. So don't need to repeat, only doing it once. So end of repeat, don't need that. The instance player is going to be our global home player, which is the ID of the player for this room, or for this client. Okay. And I think that's it. Let's see if it works. All right. Okay. So let's close this. Build, create executable. Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful. Okay, so let's run this as a server. So create server, ready. This is our visibility. Oh man. Okay, so we'll do 192. Okay, 168, 0. What the hell was it? 243. 243. Connect. Connecting. Okay. So. Come on. Why? Oh, man. Not supposed to be doing that. For crying out loud. So if I move this, let me guess. Oh, come on. Get up there. Be physics volleyball. But yeah, of course. Although, okay, here's this. I'll bring that up there. If I'll take this. Actually, is it though? It is, because that, and that makes no sense. With temp object player. Don't even need this. Wow. When you don't need stuff, suddenly this becomes so much easier. But yeah, here I am drawing this. I don't even need the surface for this, I think. Do I have any for loops? No. Do I have any repeats? No. This is actually kind of weird. Okay, I'm gonna actually, let's go ahead and test this on the second computer. So server, yes. Ready. Client, ready. This is just easier. Yeah, so here we go. At least the flashlights can still be used. Why is it drawing multiples now? It's not on a loop. Is it? Okay, so now this thing should rise. Yep, there we go. That should not be the case. Flashlight angle. Actually, wait a minute. Am I using temp player anywhere else? Yeah, temp player.x, temp player.y. With object terrain. This should be executing multiple times. Unless I'm an idiot and I left multiple. Let's see, surface shadow, object camera. No other shadow objects are in here. Shadow define. Yeah. Part fog. Background. Unless yeah, because I didn't drag in the new shadow object, which doesn't use the loop. Oh, man. Okay, here we go. That should help. Let's create executable. Start server. I have to say that the second computer for testing multiplayer stuff is an absolute godsend. There we go. Connect. Here we go. No more viewability from the other player. Gotta get rid of that. But in the nutshell, here we go. Alright, so here's what I'm gonna do. There was something that I wanted to do that I specifically told myself to remember, and I just forgot it. Ah, for God's sakes, what was it? Something very minor, but write stuff down, for crying out loud. Okay, alright. Create executable. I want to post this to Discord so that I could test it out with some people. And if you're interested in testing this out, make sure you join the Discord. Files will be up in a moment. Discord link is, as far as I know... Oh man, I need to post like a permanent one. There's the Discord link. Okay. So... I know that every time I post a new version, Jenko just magically shows up. Out of nowhere. Well, of course, everybody's busy on the server, so yeah. Man. Going through the bowels of this barren land. Has an interesting effect. Background of it. Very mesmerizing. Anywho. Nobody wants to join? There's Janko. Oh boy. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah. This actually brings out some interesting stuff. If I can detect a clear line of sight, then I could even do things like horror sounds. If, like, go around the corner that reveals an enemy, and then the horror sound plays. They're kind of interesting. Okay. I'm sure if I'll fly around a bit and play around with this, I'm sure I'll warm up to it. Kind of salty that I can't get this to run quite as well as a shadow, but, you know, apparently as a visibility feature, this works like a charm. Okay. Has anybody joined by now? I don't think anyone has, but I have to kind of trail back. Whoops. Trail back and see what's up. Oh. This could work. I think this could work. At least I haven't lost any... Well, I haven't lost all the time I spent making this. Okay, and I don't think anybody joined, because otherwise I would have seen someone by now. Yeah. Okay, so in this thing, the shadow visibility, I'm also going to disable this. The surface. Although I'm not sure how the second player's flashlight will react to the surface. I need a second player to find that out. So let's go ahead and open up the server. And let's take a look at what happens when you watch a second player fly into your field of darkness. Oh, damn it. I started 2 servers. Here we go. Okay. So we'll go over here. Uh-huh. Interesting. So I feel like what I would have to do... Huh. See, that's another problem. There is yet another problem. That does not require an immediate solution right now, mind you. Connect server. Start this. There's our dead client. Which, by the way, actually, let's see. If I take a look at the server, when I disconnect, there you go. I turn everything off, and the client goes dead. And the flashlight gets turned off as well. That's pretty cool. Okay, alright, well, you know what? I think the next thing that I'll do is I will work on some level design stuff, maybe some narrative building things, because that's what I need. For crying out loud, that's what I need to keep this project moving. Okay, so I will take a break and I'll come back to it. Alright, see you in the next one.